When I see you looking so shabby, it's just embarrassing as your former boss. Just go back to your low-paying job and get to work.
The first time in 3 years, I ran into my old boss, and this is what she said to me. Although I hadn't done anything wrong, she kept unnecessarily criticizing me. As a matter of fact, she looked down on me without knowing anything. This incident led her to a downfall. Life is full of unfairness. However, through this life experience, I truly believe that if you work with conviction, your efforts will be rewarded. My name is Alex Owens. When I was young, I was able to get into a well-known prestigious university. Studying was my only strength, so my grades were decent. I was born in a rural area of Kentucky, and my family ran a small restaurant. Both of my parents managed the place. Whenever I went back home, I would fly rather than drive from Chicago to Kentucky. The round-trip fare was also expensive. Even though it was far, my parents consistently provided for my living and tuition expenses. During my college years, I was quite fortunate. When it came time to start internship jobs, I went back home to discuss my future with my parents. My father said,
I want to stay active in the restaurant business my whole life, and I have a small dream. What do you think, Alex? Would you like to acquire some skills after graduating from university? Cooking can make people smile.
my mother added,
Your father wants you to become a skilled French cuisine chef. His skills are reliable, and I think it's best to learn from scratch.
"So you guys want me to take over the restaurant?" My parents seemed to be hoping for that in the long run. I shared my thoughts. Living in Chicago, there are so many people and so much stimulation. There's a vibrancy, an abundance of information, and a sense of community that you don't find in Kentucky. I never thought about coming back to the countryside after graduation, and I still don't. I wanted to work for a major IT company in Chicago. It's undoubtedly a growing company with stability. I don't think I would be happy taking over a small restaurant with an uncertain future. They didn't say anything further. The restaurant business is considered part of the service industry. When considering the future and the volatility of the business, they probably couldn't argue back. Anyway, please let me live freely. I'm sorry, but it's my life. After that, I was able to secure a job at a major IT company in Chicago, as I had hoped. As my parents aged, it became increasingly difficult for them to run the restaurant physically.
The past was better. It's tough for individual restaurants nowadays.
My father felt a great deal of anxiety about the shopping malls and large supermarkets that had become more prevalent in even the most remote areas, as well as the chain restaurants that had started moving in. Even though my parents' one was called a small restaurant, when I was little, it operated from noon, made catered lunches, and delivered them. It was quite popular in the neighborhood as a rare, authentic French restaurant run by a couple. By the time I graduated from university, they had stopped deliveries, ceased lunchtime operations, made catered lunches only by reservation, and only operated in the evenings. It must have been quite physically demanding. My family's business continued to face increasingly harsh conditions, but considering the market situation, it was inevitable. I decided to work in the public relations planning department of a major IT company. As the internet environment evolved, it became a time when the scope of work you could do with just a computer expanded, and the annual sales continued to rise. At 30, I married Margaret, and at 33, our daughter Shirley was born. I was living a truly smooth-sailing life, but the small restaurant at home continued to decline. Whenever I did call occasionally out of concern, my mother responded,
No worries, we're fine. You just keep an eye on your own job, okay?
I had started a family, and work became busier, so I didn't have much room to think about the family business. I would return to Kentucky during the Christmas holidays or summer holidays, but it was just to show my parents their grandchild. When Shirley was in elementary school, my father prepared a meal for us. At that time, Shirley said,
Grandpa, why is your food so delicious?
Surely, you're starting to understand, huh? Grandpa treats everyone as a customer. It's natural for the food to be delicious. Doing what's natural consistently builds trust. And that trust makes you want to create even better dishes.
Doing what's natural consistently? That sounds difficult.
It's okay if you don't understand now. You'll get it eventually.
"Did he ever tell me something like that?" To begin with, I never really appreciated the value of the meals he prepared for us every day. He had his own pride, having honed his skills through years of hard work. Together with my mother, he started a small restaurant and provided everything I needed to get through university. He even trained a few apprentices. Now, although the restaurant has declined and only operates in the evenings, my parents still run it for the customers who come, making me realize how much the locals love them. It seems I haven't been grateful enough.
Grandpa, can I help with the restaurant? Is there anything I can do?
That's great. How about you help wipe the dishes?
Wipe the dishes. Yes, for sure. I want to do that.
Even my elementary school daughter was eager to help, but I never showed any interest in helping out.
When are we going to Kentucky next? I want to help out at Grandpa and Grandma's restaurant.
After that, Shirley always wanted to help out at the family restaurant during the holidays. She was moved by my father's cooking, developed an interest in it, and wanted to help. She became known to the regulars as the thoughtful granddaughter from a big city. Helping at the restaurant became something she looked forward to during our visits. When I turned 50, Shirley was a senior in high school. My wife Margaret told me,
Shirley wants to attend a vocational school after graduating from high school.
"A vocational school? I thought she was going to college."
Well, it seems she wants to become a chef.
"A chef? Wow, cool. It's probably because of my dad." "That's great." Shirley has always been the kind of person who pursues her goals once she sets her mind to them. Since my parents let me live freely, I wanted to give her the same freedom. I had no objections to her decision. My career was going well. I was now the director of the Public Relations Planning Department at a major IT company. The future seemed secure, and I could afford to send Shirley to a vocational school. Just when I thought everything was going smoothly, I never expected to encounter such an incident. My boss, named Emma Bailey, now the head of the Public Relations Planning Department, is 2 years ahead of me. She has been in the same department all along and has helped me rise from a regular employee to manager and then to director.
Alex, your daughter is a senior in high school, right? Looks a very challenging time.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm letting her do things her way.
Oh, yeah. What does she plan to do?
She wants to become a chef.
That's wonderful.
Emma is a kind coworker who even cares about my family. The position above the director is the department head. She has mentioned that if anyone were to take over as department head, it would be me. One day, during a morning meeting, we were informed that a computer in the Public Relations Planning Department, overseen by Emma, had been infected with a virus and led to a leak of customer information.
Alex, thoroughly inspect each computer in the department.
All right. It was a huge problem. A data leak of customer information was unprecedented. Sweating nervously, I inspected all 16 computers in the department. However, after 3 or 4 days, I couldn't find any satisfactory results. During this time, the Public Relations Planning Department was completely paralyzed.
Alex, we found that the leak originated from your computer.
What? According to Emma, after thoroughly inspecting all the computers with the help of the department staff, they concluded that the leak came from my computer. How could they know that without any evidence? My frustration was only growing. Hold on. Can I have more time to investigate this?
Do you realize how many days have already passed?
If there's solid proof, I'll give up, but I just can't accept this.
Do whatever you want. Just make sure you're looking everyone in the eye.
Day by day, everyone in the department started to frown at me and treat me coldly. Wait a minute, I'm the director. Why do I have to be treated this way? With the issue of the data breach unresolved, I was forced to take responsibility and was eventually fired. The sudden dismissal left my family in shock. The reason for my resignation was the alleged leak of information. Who would hire someone with such a background? I still had a 30-year mortgage on the condo and a car loan. Moreover, there was Shirley's vocational school to consider. It was the worst possible timing. After I left the company, I heard from a former colleague who I was close with that the real cause of the virus infection and data leak was actually from Emma. To cover up her own mistake, she framed me. My ex-colleague couldn't say anything until I resigned because Emma had cleverly manipulated him. What kind of person is she? The boss who was so kind. It's unthinkable. I was trembling with anger and thought about suing her, but even my close colleague's testimony lacked credibility and solid evidence. I was left alone, crying in despair. I'd never been betrayed by someone I trusted before. I had to discuss the future with Margaret, my wife.
We still have the mortgage and car loan. I've always been a stay-at-home wife, and I don't have any qualifications or work experience.
It's really getting tough. Having been at a major IT company for so long, the mental toll of being let go at 50 was enormous, and I felt deeply sorry for my family. As we were talking, Shirley, who was eavesdropping in the next room, made a suggestion.
Why don't we move to Kentucky? Wouldn't it be fun to revive the restaurant?
What is she saying? To my worn-out mind, her words sounded like childish nonsense.
Oh dear, that might be interesting,
Said Margaret. What are you guys talking about? It's a rundown restaurant surrounded by shopping malls, big supermarkets, and chain restaurants.
I love Kentucky. I love Grandpa and Grandma even more.
I get that, but do you think we can live on love?
You won't know until you try.
I never expected Shirley to have such an idea. To be honest, I couldn't think of any other options. I called my mother back home. Hey, Mom. Actually, at the company. I explained the situation in detail, covering the events at the company and my current circumstances.
Oh, I see. Then why don't you come to Kentucky?
It's surprising how different men and women think, one man complicating things, and three women keeping it simple. In August of that year, we sold the condo, which still had about 10 years left on the mortgage, and sold the car. We sorted through our furniture and appliances, got rid of unnecessary items, and the three of us moved to Kentucky. My mother cleaned the spare room at home so that we could live comfortably. Shirley started attending a culinary vocational school in Kentucky and helped out at the restaurant. As for me, I reluctantly began learning to cook from my father. Margaret took a part-time job at a nearby supermarket. My father is 74, and my mother is 72. I joined them to help run the restaurant at the age of 50. Although I felt really awkward at first, having Shirley as a student occasionally help out brought some energy back to the place.
Oh my, that little city girl has grown up so much.
Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
Regulars who had known Shirley since she was a child were even more affectionate towards her. To boost the restaurant's sales, I used my experience from the public relations planning department of the major IT company to increase our visibility through a website and social media.
Grandpa, Grandma, look. I got my chef's license. I'm going to work even harder, so please give me lots to do.
By the time Shirley graduated from culinary school, we had resumed lunch service and started doing deliveries again, and sales kept growing. My father's phrase, "doing what's natural consistently," eventually became the restaurant's motto, and consistently doing that earned us the trust of our customers. By the time my father turned 76, he was occasionally featured in the media and had become somewhat of a famous French chef. One day, my mother told me that he had received an offer to be a speaker at a nationwide restaurant seminar. My father had become a local celebrity. He even published a book recently, which was quite amusing. The person in charge was coming to our small restaurant to greet him. My parents were a bit nervous but also excited about this first-time experience. While my parents were happily preparing, I went to the local market to buy some missing ingredients. It's been 3 years since we moved back to Kentucky. I now feel really glad we did. While I was looking at the vegetable section at the market, someone unexpectedly called out to me.
Could it be Alex?
"What? Emma? What are you doing here?" It was surprising that running into my former boss from the major IT company in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. She brushed off any corporate talk but kept prying into my personal life. "I'm helping out with my family's business now.
Okay, I can get that from your outfit.
I don't need a suit for this job. I can work just fine in these clothes."
I see. About that data breach, sorry about that.
I don't care much anymore how she framed me, leading to my dismissal, as I consider how content I am with my current life.
But thanks to that incident, I was able to become an executive at my company.
That means she became an executive because of me. That's great to hear.
Seeing you in such shabby clothes makes me feel sorry for you as a former coworker. I'm curious what kind of work you're doing now.
Oh yeah, well, I have work to do here, so I'll take my leave. I had planned to let the past go, but her words brought back my anger, making me furious.
Right, know your place. Poor people with low-end jobs should just get back to work. Good luck.
Darn Emma. Was she always that arrogant? Feeling utterly looked down upon, I left the market, trying to forget the unpleasant encounter. With my frustration, I finished my shopping and had a hot dog at the market before heading back to the restaurant. Inside, Shirley was prepping the food by herself. I handed her the ingredients I had bought.
The people from the company are here. Grandpa's really famous, huh?
Said Shirley. My parents were sitting with two people, a woman and a man, discussing something. From the kitchen, I saw them and shouted out in surprise. "What? Emma, why are you here?"
Oh my goodness! Is this your family's restaurant?
The seminar speaker invitation was actually a project planned by the major IT company I used to work for. I ended up listening to the conversation from a distance.
So you're Alex's former boss.
Said my father. The other man was apparently a high-ranking official from the co-sponsoring company. His name was Ronald. Just an hour earlier, I had been looked down upon for my appearance and treated like a poor man, which left me feeling angry and unsettled. However, on second thought, this might be an opportunity to increase the restaurant's visibility and sales. Thus, I decided to handle it maturely. "Dad, I don't think it's a bad idea. It might be worth a try." With my request, my father exchanged a look with my mother. Then, they both nodded.
By the way, I've heard how you drove my son to be fired.
Fired? Emma, what's this about?
Said Ronald.
Well, there's a reason for that.
You falsely accused my son, who did nothing wrong, and humiliated him. From what I can see on your business card, you've been promoted from department head to executive.
Falsely accused? I would never.
I understand. Let's consider this discussion over. It's difficult to work with someone who can't do the basics. Please look elsewhere.
Mr. Owens, this is a very big event. I believe it would greatly benefit your restaurant in the future. Please reconsider.
Emma insisted. It seemed that for the big year-end event with a large budget, my father, who had become somewhat of a local celebrity, was an essential choice. However, he never agreed. Prioritizing trust with his customers over immediate profits, he returned to the kitchen. My mother also returned to her work, saying,
Beasley.
After that, the two from the co-sponsoring company sent several letters, but as soon as my father read them, he tore them up. My father as a professional chef values trust above all else. Trust isn't something that can be built overnight. It can crumble like a sandcastle with the slightest mistake. That's why he can't tolerate people who can't do the basics. He values his principles over short-term profits. Even after becoming famous, he never let it go to his head and remained humble. As a son, I have a lot to learn from my father. The National Restaurant Seminar held at the end of the year ended in failure. Obviously, one reason was poor selection of participants. Though, according to a former colleague, Emma, who had lucked into becoming an executive, fell into corruption and became involved in scandals, which eventually led her fired and sued. This is truly a case of karma. Shirley and I are still apprentices compared to my father, who has been a chef for many years, but he taught us French cuisine with great care. Shirley had a natural talent for cooking. Perhaps helping at the restaurant from a young age led to this. I couldn't compete with my daughter, who was passionate and inspired to enter this world.
I want to learn more and more from Grandpa.
My father had a few apprentices, but he probably never imagined his own granddaughter would become one. Her youth allowed her to learn quickly, absorbing everything like a sponge. It seemed best for me to support Shirley. After finishing my work, I focused on promoting the restaurant. Nowadays, it's not unusual for customers to come from all over the states and even overseas. My parents seemed happy and fulfilled to gain new partners in Shirley and me, with Margaret supporting us behind the scenes. I finally felt that I could repay my parents for everything they had done. The small restaurant was renovated. The seating capacity, which was 20, has now tripled, making it possible to host banquets. My father's dream of offering a higher class of French cuisine from a small restaurant had come true. Our move to Kentucky was sparked by Shirley's words.
You won't know until you try.
That led my father to seize the opportunity, and he changed the restaurant's name to Shirley's Kitchen. Without hesitation, he boldly decided to name the restaurant after his granddaughter. He is now 80, declaring he would stay active for life, and Shirley is 24. They quickly became a sensation, and the restaurant's reputation soared, which was partly due to my efforts. Public relations are crucial. My previous job experience is now paying off. Of course, this success is primarily due to my parents' hard work. I'm just a small part of it. My father has found a new dream to pass on all his skills to Shirley and make her a master of French cuisine. For Shirley, her grandfather is the best mentor, and she enjoys learning and noting down everything he teaches her, relishing each day of culinary training.